The Noctua NH-D15 has been officially launched way back in 2014, and today we have the new chromax.black edition, which features the same cooling performance, the same mounting system, and the same heatsink shape as a regular NH-D15, but with everything covered by this lovely all-black matte finish. The NH-D15 has a dual tower heatsink design, which allows for a total of 3 fans to be used at the same time. The cooler itself is delivered with only 2 fans pre-installed, but you can add a third fan later on if you want, thanks to the included third set of metallic clips. The dual tower heatsink design also allows for a better heat transfer overall. This is due to the increased heat dissipation surface area and also thanks to the 6 copper-made heat pipes, which are also nickel-plated and covered with the same matte black finish as the rest of the heatsink. The base of the cooler is made from the same nickel-plated copper as the heat pipes, but it is only painted black on the sides and the top. In order to get the best possible heat transfer, the base plate that makes the actual contact with the surface of the CPU is left alone. Here you can see the level of build quality that is characteristic of Noctua. The base itself has almost a mirror-like finish and reflection with subtle circular marks left from the manufacturing process. Here we also get to see how the 6 heat pipes are attached to the base plate. The 2 components are soldered together to provide optimal heat transfer and dissipation for the CPU. The NH-D15 chromax.black edition uses 2 140mm fans that are also part of the Noctua chromax.black edition series. These fans are the Noctua NF-A15 HS PWM and have a minimum speed of 300 RPM and a maximum speed of 1500 RPM. These fans use the award-winning SSO2 bearing system, which is not only reliable but is very silent. The fans are also equipped with rubber pads on both sides of each corner of the frame. This is done to dampen any vibrations that might be generated by the fan spinning, and thus it will lower the overall sound signature of the cooler. The accessories that are delivered with this cooler are what you'd expect from a high-end CPU cooler that is made by Noctua, as in you get pretty much everything to have it installed. You get 2 low noise adapters and a single Y splitter, then we have a metal Phillips screwdriver, a metal backplate, and a single tube of NT-H1 high-grade thermal compound. There are also the components of the secure Firm 2 mounting system, which are painted black as opposed to the regular chrome texture. Once the cooler is installed, you get to see the only drawback of the NH-D15, or indeed the drawback of any high-end Air CPU cooler: the size. The cooler itself completely covers all 4 RAM slots of the motherboard and is pretty close to the graphics card, which is installed on the top PCIe slot of the motherboard. Fortunately, the fans on the NH-D15 can be moved upwards to allow the usage of taller RAM modules. In addition to that, the heatsink itself has the lower metal fins shorter than the top ones to again provide more clearance for the RAM sticks, and this is done on both sides of the heatsink. And now, as you already know, we have a tradition on this channel that before we get to see the decibel value of each CPU cooler tested, you get to hear the actual sound the reviewed cooler makes. This way, the real sound that you have to live with will be heard instead of just a numerical value that may or may not reflect the reality, especially when we talk about bearing noises and other invariables. The NH-D15 chromax.black edition reached a maximum sound of 38 decibels, measured at a distance of 10 cm away from the system. This measurement was taken with both fans spinning at their maximum speed of 1500 RPM. And as you could hear in the previous segment of this review, the sound signature of this cooler is smooth and the fans have no bearing noises or vibrations that are being passed into the rest of the cooler and your system. The cooling performance is tested using an Intel i9 9900K CPU that is manually overclocked to 5 GHz on all cores. The thermal testing has 2 parts. The first one is closest to what you will get when gaming, as it uses the Intel Burn Test V2 software to load the CPU and thus heat up the CPU cooler. And in this test, the NH-D15 chromax.black reached a maximum temperature of 58 degrees Celsius with an ambient temperature of 26 degrees Celsius, which is identical with the regular NH-D15 cooler. So this is the proof that the black coating applied on the chromax.black editions does not affect the overall cooling performance of the NH-D15 cooler. The next temperature test is focused around the best possible performance of each CPU cooler, and to do this the AIDA 64 Extreme Stability Test is used to heat up the CPU. Basically, in this synthetic benchmark, the CPU is used to its maximum potential and thus you get much more heat. What you have to understand is that such benchmark is providing a load on the CPU that is not going to be encountered with games or the usual software that most people might use. In this test, the NH-D15 chromax.black reached a maximum temperature of 83 degrees Celsius, with the same 26 degrees Celsius ambient temperature. This is a whole degree cooler than the regular NH-D15, but we can safely say that the difference is so small that it is within the margin of error for this testing. The Noctua NH-D15 chromax.black is simple to understand. It is the same outstanding air CPU cooler that Noctua launched way back in 2014, but now it looks even better, thanks to a full matte black coating which is applied on all components, starting with the fans, fan clips, the heatsink, the heat pipes and everything else except the base plate. The cooling performance is also very good, and while some people were worried that the black coating will affect the cooling performance, have no worries, it doesn't. There are some things, however, that you need to keep in mind. First of all, this cooler is big and it will easily cover all 4 RAM slots on a full ATX motherboard, but this can be addressed thanks to the mounting clips for the fans that can be easily moved upwards, thus increasing the clearance for the memory. And if you use a motherboard that has RAM slots on both sides of the CPU socket, then don't worry, this cooler has the lower fins of the heatsink shaped to increase the memory clearance on both sides of the CPU socket. Pretty clever. The Noctua NH-D15 chromax.black is worth the asking price over the regular NH-D15, being easier to match with any system and configuration, and of course thanks to the great performance both in cooling and in sound. The mounting system is one of the best around, and by that I mean being one of the easiest to install, and it is also using mostly metallic components in its construction. If you like this review, then perhaps you can consider subscribing for more, and if you decide to support this channel directly, then you can use the Patreon or subscriber star pages listed in the description below.